January 21st. This is a regular meeting. Roll call by recording secretary.
All members present with the exception of Jean Strong.
Opening statement by chair. Oops, I gotta turn my mic off, right? Sorry about that.
Or the volume.
Patrick and Sarah, I am able to share screens, right? Because I have like
Are
50
you,
of
if
them.
you're on the Zoom, you can, yeah.
Okay, cool. Opening statement by chair. Opening statement, welcome. So nice to have citizens here today. Your comments are welcome at any time during the meeting by raising your hand, being recognized by the chair, except for during our work agenda items, which are items 6 through 13. We also may ask for citizens' comments before voting on a motion during the discussion period. There's no point, however, in being repetitious. Once we've heard it, it's been noted, we can move on. And I encourage all board members to comment and ask questions throughout the meeting. Considerations of any changes, additions, or removals to the agenda? Anybody got anything? Comments from citizens? We do have a mic right there, Eric. Here.
I can do this.
Let's turn it around.
Oh,
Sure.
We have ceiling mics, he's good.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think it looks good
wow.
now.
You guys are back.
You guys are high tech, man.
You spent some money in here. Happy New Year, everyone. I had this long sort of planning vision for sort of reinvigorating a lot of what's happening, but the agenda is long, so I think what I'll do is I'll just send this to you, and you guys can do what you'd like with it, and hopefully we can have a good 25 and really concentrate on what's important for the community, as a whole. And I appreciate everyone that's on this board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alden. Anybody else? Okay. Approval of minutes from September 17th. Abby's not, she resigned because you guys all know from her email. And I did send her a private message thanking her for her time, and anytime we can encourage young people to participate, I'm all about it. But it's September 17th minutes, does anybody have any comments, corrections? I had a couple.
I read them, but I was online, so I didn't make notes.
I'm gonna jump in. The first correction I had was on Roman numeral 8. Number 3, the trustees didn't make any further changes and weren't sure if the board needed a review. That didn't happen. I don't know why that says that, and weren't sure if the board needed a review. I mean, I'm the one that reported on the trustees, the changes they had made. So I'd like to strike that, because,
The whole number 3?
no, just after the and after that, because they weren't wanting us to do a review. It was finalized in September.
8, I don't see much.
Roman numeral 8, 8.3
Oh, I
at
was
the
looking at
end.
2, sorry. Okay.
The other thing I had was Roman numeral 9, number 2, and then 2 I's. It says we have to apply with the Home Act, but we have to comply with the Home Act. It should be comply. I'll just send these to Abby if we decide to accept the changes that, that we make.
This is a little one, but the same C, small numeral 8. It says no, Schmidt says Orion Avenue is 1, but Orion it's like O apostrophe R-I-O-N.
Where?
Wait, where are we again?
We are on number, I'm sorry, 9. Sorry. 9, 7, and then Roman numeral and small letters 8.
7.
VIII.
Oh, Ryan, oh, yeah, okay. I will, what we decide on doing
That's
with
just a
it.
little thing, but
So it's Orion.
I had seen just a couple of little misspellings and things like that.
I had one in 9 to 3B. It's just a little thing. She has a he instead of a the
Where is this?
on 3B. In September, Roman numeral 9, 3B. It says he instead of the. I just like to correct them because I want them to be right on the website. Because I look at them a lot to make sure I've made the right corrections on zoning and stuff. I double check them there. Roman numeral 10, number 9, just wanted her to fix the way she spelled doesn't.
Where is that?
Roman numeral 10, number 9. Just misspelled doesn't. And then number 10, I didn't make a motion, I called the question. The motion was already on the table. So it should say I called the question, not I made a motion. The motion was made, before the discussion. And that's all I had in the September minutes. Anybody else have anything else?
No.
No.
Okay, in the October minutes, or maybe should we make a motion and or just do them all at once? Probably quicker, do them all at once?
I think so.
Okay.
I can't vote on the special meeting
then-
because I wasn't
Then
there.
I make a motion to approve the September 2024 minutes.
Second.
As amended.
As amended, thank you.
Is there any
Sorry,
discussion?
Judy.
No, it's okay.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, in October minutes, I didn't have anything, actually. I had one little picky-weeny thing, but then I looked at it again today and it wasn't really an issue. Something about Jason said, in number 10, but it wasn't, I looked at it today and I thought, no, that doesn't matter.
I didn't see anything yet.
Well, I couldn't find it, I don't see it in number 10, I don't see where it says Jason anywhere. Does anybody have anything in the October minutes?
Make a motion to approve the October minutes?
I'll second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the November minutes was a joint meeting between the select board, the village trustees, and the planning commission. So if you looked for them on the website, you had to look under the select board. They were under the trustees or under ours. I didn't have, Alicia did those minutes, I didn't even have one correction. I actually sent her an email and said, wow, 'cause that was a long meeting. And there was a lot said. Does anybody have any in the joint
I
meeting?
had none. I'll make a motion to approve the November 19th, 2024 minutes.
Any second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. And
What
motion passes. Are you the ones aye? Oh,
I
yeah, they weren't
abstain. I
there.
abstain.
They weren't there.
I wasn't
yeah,
there
yeah.
for the middle
Okay.
one. He
Is it
wasn't
okay if
there
only
for this.
two of us approve
No.
it, if it's
No,
not a
'cause we're
quorum?
not a
It's not a
majority.
quorum.
Yeah, so we gotta send that
You weren't
back
there?
to,
Okay.
put it on next
I thought
agenda.
that was a little odd.
Yeah, that's
Oh, I
never
thought
happened
so.
before, I'm not a practice with that one.
It says you were there.
Okay, I'm
I
gonna
was
jot
at
that
the
down
one
for next
before, I
meeting.
wasn't.
Wait a minute.
That's why I didn't say anything.
Then we did not meet in,
It says Ted was here, there on November 19th.
I seconded it, but I was not there for the middle one.
yeah,
For
well,
the
we're
other-
voting,
Oh,
so
so
let's try it
November.
again, yeah, let's try
I
again.
understand, but I did not vote on the middle one.
That's okay.
because of that,
But we're talking
because I
about.
wasn't there.
Did we have enough on the middle one?
Yeah, we're-
Did you vote on this one?
Yep.
Did I
He
just
did.
not hear you? Oh, okay.
Okay, so
I
we
seconded-
No, we're good, we're
Yeah, I
good.
seconded it, and I said, yeah,
Take that off of next meeting.
come in.
Okay, next, rules of procedure, if all 5 members are present, we're missing Jean, so that gets named again. Neighborhood development areas, so nice to have Jason here with us. He has made the necessary changes that at the November meeting, we had the select board and the trustees being right on board with the changes that we were suggesting. They weren't too keen on the whole, what's that called when the street makes a big circle?
Cul-de-sac.
Cul-de-sac. They weren't keen on the cul-de-sac thing, but the other things they seemed to be fine with. They weren't too keen on the map, because they weren't sure that the areas we picked out were good areas for development in the village. So I'm gonna share that screen. Jason, do you want me to do that, or do you wanna?
If you can, that would be great. I don't have my computer going at the moment, so.
Sarah, can I share?
Yes.
Next question. Jason, when was this map? Is this, like,
When was it?
yeah,
Made? Back, well, October 28th.
28th.
after our meeting?
After one of our meetings. Yeah.
The
There might be a
meeting-
further tweak that I might suggest, but nothing has changed since then.
Okay, I just wanted to see which,
Okay, so, how am I gonna, not see it all? Oh, I got this thing in the way. Just gotta move it over, I think. Nope. There we go. Okay, and the changes that needed to be made are quite a ways into the document.
I was trying to make them as basically minimal as I could. So essentially what I was doing was I was going through the subdivision regulations and I was trying to address those complete street standards that we talked about a couple months ago. So to be eligible for this neighborhood development area designation, you have to meet 8 of 10 of these items. And so you're missing a few at the moment. And so we talked, and yeah, I was trying to avoid the cul-de-sacs and some other things, but I think right there is, I think that's the first one. So under the design standards for new and improved roads in the subdivision, well, let me back up. I started with subdivision because I thought it would be a little easier as opposed to design. We can change that if you want, but I thought it would be a little easier. So under design standards for new and improved roads, in the subdivision, I literally included the red words there. Essentially, we're not adding a whole heck of a lot right there, but it adds a little bit more definition. You know, we're essentially trying to keep roads, we want them really safe, but we want them to be as narrow as they can be. Right? The state wants to see them as narrow as they can be. So there's a little bit of a safe versus narrow kind of thing going on here. But that's why we added that first part to minimize the extent of impervious surfaces. And then we're referencing these state design standards, which may change in a couple of years, but right now they allow for variable widths. So if it's a really low volume, low speed road, it can be quite narrow. If it's a much busier road or a high speed road, they need to be much wider. So these are standards created by V-Trans. So I thought by adding those things, that would cover our bases.
Oh, is the board on board with that?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yep.
So I think pedestrian, and I added bicycle access is next right there. Yep. So again, one of those checklist items was wanting to require essentially sidewalks in certain circumstances. So right now you have this pedestrian access standard in there. It's a little weak, I guess I would call it. So I was just trying to add a few sentences to strengthen it a little bit more. So essentially we're saying all subdivisions need to consider bicycle and pedestrian facilities. and the application needs to have this information on the plat that's presented. And for any development that's within, and we can talk about the number, but within 500 feet of an existing sidewalk or bike lane or something like that, a trail, potentially, you know, the application, it says, shall incorporate adequate pedestrian or bicycle facilities. What's adequate is an open question, but, you know, I thought this was a stronger language, and we could certainly tweak things if that doesn't, if it's too vague, or if it's not enough guidance for the DRB. But I was hoping that this would be better, while also trying to keep it simple. Are there any questions or concerns about that?
Is the intent to be able to connect and lengthen the sidewalk or the bike path?
In general, yeah, you know, the assumption I'm making, which may not be totally true, is that all existing sidewalks, for example, are owned and maintained by the village. I don't know if that's true. Maybe that's not true. I think in most cases that's true.
That's true.
And I think we're talking about new developments that are sort of, you know, you can see where the sidewalk ends, but you're really close, you know, you're close, but not
Right.
quite there. And so, yeah, it would be, so the DRB could have that conversation of either build a connection, or maybe you have a right-of-way for a future connection, or something like that, is the idea.
And shall consider takes an effect if it's impossible, like for some reason, to do that?
Yeah, I mean, if it's cost prohibitive, there's ledge, you know, various
Okay.
different things, just make it infeasible, then I think the DRB could take that under consideration.
How are we feeling about this language?
I think adequate's a little vague, and, you know, it's kind of, and I get why it's like that. Is there a way that we can say, so that's similar to the improvements within the 500 feet? So if it's just a sidewalk within 500 feet, then you have to, okay, we want to continue the sidewalk. But if for any reason down the line there's a bike lane and a sidewalk, well, then you have to consider both that are within 500 feet. How can we say that you have to consider what improvements near your development?
Yeah, so we're
Well, you-
saying, if I'm
So,
following you,
yeah.
you don't like adequate, right?
Yeah.
And so this is saying for any new development within, again,
Yeah,
500 or some other number feet of an existing walking and/or bicycle network. I think the idea
So like-
there, it may be not clear enough, is that it would be
I guess
one
that
or
is,
both.
I guess that does actually say what I'm trying to say, now that I think of it again.
But if we get rid of adequate and we add something at the end like, you know, unless it's
So-
cost infeasible, too costly or infeasible, something like that. Is that getting at your other point?
So it's almost like I want to say, shall incorporate similar pedestrian and/or bicycle facilities. So like similar, like,
Uh-huh.
so if it's just a sidewalk, then you have to consider just extending, just a sidewalk.
Okay, gotcha.
You know, if it's both, then you have to consider both.
Okay.
So, Jason, I just have a PDF of this. I don't think I have a Word document of it.
Okay. Yeah, I
So
think
that's
I was
a
having
change. You have to
there's a
make
weird
that,
issue
can
that-
you make that change?
I can. Yep, I'm making
Okay.
notes. I'll make that
Did you-
change. Yep.
I'm just
Hey,
gonna
what do
take notes. It's Ryan's change. You've jotted it down.
Well, what do you, does everyone think on that? I mean, that is something that's discretionary by the board at that point?
Can I ask
Say-
a definition? Sorry. Just pedestrian facilities, is that strictly sidewalks, or is there something more incorporated in that?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know that there's a definition in here, so let me see.
I've never actually heard that term, pedestrian facilities.
Does this document have its own glossary, or is that part of zoning?
There
glossary?
are definitions, and that's not included, so I think that is something that
So we need a definition.
we should define that. I guess, and we should talk about that. I was thinking it's probably mostly sidewalks, but it could be some kind of a walking path
Yeah,
potentially
good
too.
path.
Oh, that's true.
Yep,
Does
So
that
how,
sound reasonable?
yeah.
so the definition is gonna include sidewalks and walking paths?
Yeah, and I might just say, or similar facilities or something like that. But
Okay.
yeah,
Can-
you know, again,
Say
whatever works for
sidewalks,
you.
Instead of-
walking
Or
paths,
similar-
or similar.
Facilities,
Ins-
okay.
Instead of defining facilities, can we just replace facilities with path?
Like, what else would it be? Probably would just be a sidewalk or a path.
Well, there's a bicycle facility,
But, yeah.
which could be a path, it could be a shoulder, it could be.
Yeah, it
Okay,
could be a
so we'll
multiple.
add that to
So I
whatever.
think we should define both of those terms. I don't know, that would be my suggestion, and whatever works for
Wait,
you.
which both?
Bicycle
What's a
or
bicycle
walking.
facility, and
And
then
what's
what's
a
a
pedestrian
pedestrian
facility?
facility?
Okay, so those are two things we're gonna add.
Can I ask one more, sir? Just on that same, I'm sorry. That was
Mr. Allen?
Alden,
I'm sorry.
you know that.
I'm sorry.
No worries. They called for us. When I've done properties, you know, a bicycle facility in my room means they're like a storage room where bikes are stored
It
in
could
a
it could be
development.
that.
I was thinking it was a bike
It could
rack.
be bike parking, it could be, yeah,
So-
it could be.
That's when I see bicycle facilities, to me, that doesn't mean the path, the sidewalk, that means
Yeah.
there's an actual room inside the building where folks can store their bikes.
Maybe facility is not the best word?
Maybe that definition needs to be,
Walking.
Well, I guess what do you all want it to mean? I think that's a good point. It could very well be bike parking or something
Yeah,
like
when I
that.
read it, I thought bike rack.
And it could be that. It could be the scenario where there, of course, there's not a whole lot of it out there, but if there is some kind of a bike path and the development is sort of right next door, maybe you want a connection. That's probably a really rare example, but maybe. But I think certainly it's bike parking, and maybe it is other things. What if folks want it to be?
there must be some definitions.
Accommodations.
Well, I guess I'm just asking,
What we
let's just
actually
talk,
want.
what do we want it to be?
Want it to- what do we
There
want it to
are
say?
existing
What do we want it to
definitions, but
get
I want to
at?
make sure we use the right definition for what serves Ludlow
Well, you could
best.
say paths
Say,
and/or facilities. Because if you can extend a bike path, why not?
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
And, but the facilities is nice too, to, put a bike rack up or whatever.
So, kind of all the above, I think, right?
Yeah,
instead of paths, would like travel ways? Is that more?
byways,
Well, like a way of travel,
travel ways.
Well,
because that
paths,
covers where,
trails. There's a lot there.
well, I mean, that covers, so like Jason was saying with bike, it's not just bike paths, there's shoulders, there are bike
Right.
lanes, there's,
Facilities, that's.
Like routes, et cetera,
Yeah.
all the above kind of thing.
Mhm.
Hmm.
yeah, so kind of like,
Maybe that would be a definition of bike. Facility includes paths, routes, shoulders,
Yep.
whatever else you can think of.
Yeah, it's a good catch. We should define these things, and I think
Yeah.
I'm getting what you're saying, so we'll work on that. Anything else?
Is that it? Can't remember.
There
Oh, no,
is
there's
one
more.
other thing.
Are we ready to move on from the bike facilities, pedestrian and bicycle access? Here we are.
We've got to define
Yeah,
it.
next
Well, then he's
page.
gonna define it. That's at the end. That was at the end.
Yeah, I didn't do it, so I'll have to
That's
bring it
what
back
I'm
to
saying,
you.
so we might as well move
Well,
on.
Can you not bring it back to us? Don't we have to get this in soon? Like, my hope is to have a public hearing about this next month. And so at the public hearing, we could define it, because we can make changes at public hearing.
Well, if you're okay with it, so what I'm hearing is we're getting rid of adequate, changing that to similar in the language we were just talking about before. I'm adding definitions for one for bicycle facility, one for pedestrian facility. But and I'm going to use general language. I'm going to try to put it in these words later. Pedestrian facility will include sidewalks, walking paths, or similar facilities. I think. Does that sound good?
Seats.
Yep.
Bicycle facility will include, like, bike parking and similar storage, as well as, bicycle paths, bike routes, shoulders, et cetera, or similar facilities, something like that. Is that,
Yeah.
do I
That
have that
sounds good.
reasonably captured?
And maybe trails, that's pretty common. for
Trail,
bike
okay.
trails.
Oh, yeah, trails.
Yeah.
Like rail trails and things
The
like
ones we
that.
have already. that's what-
travel ways?
And
Brian really
travel
likes
ways.
travel ways.
I know,
Well,
but trails is a really common term among people who like.
any ways of travel?
I go, Ryan, like that.
And other.
So if that works for you, that's what I'll do.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so then I think that's, I want to make sure it's not, there's not something else after there, but under utilities, I noticed it's still referring to CDPS, so I changed that to Green Mountain Power. But that's where we added underground power that we had talked about before. So in essence, underground, what it says, underground power, telecommunications, and other utilities are required for new developments within the village unless the DRB deems it as infeasible or prohibitively expensive.
Like it?
They're gonna be
And again, this is
prohibitively
new,
expensive.
this is new developments too. so
Yeah, that's right, new
There's not tons of
developments.
those,
Yeah.
right?
Trying to get there eventually.
I think it sounds good.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Prohibitively expensive, meaning percentage of overall cost, discretionary?
Well, as written, that's pretty discretionary, but do we need more specificity, do you think? I mean, I think it's
It definitely isn't out.
You know, it's one of those things where if the developer's coming in,
Yeah.
they've got a subdivision, whatever, 8 units or 8 lots or something, and they discover that to underground the power, there's ledge, there's all kinds of things, it's gonna cost X amount of dollars. I don't know where you draw that line.
No, I know.
Um,
And it's
Well,
gonna cost a lot.
You've already
to
drawn the line with the
It's already-
cost.
it's,
Well,
So
it's always
It's
expensive.
always gonna be more
prohibitive.
And
it's
putting
already,
in poles and lines, the electric company putting in poles and lines, it's more.
Absolutely.
lot
oh,
more.
yeah.
Oh,
So
my
we
God.
bury
Yeah,
ours
way more.
ourselves.
That's what, my opinion would be, I don't know that I like that. The
You don't, yeah. you don't-
the underground,
you
I don't
like-
think that you really honestly should be put in that situation, but that's my opinion.
Well, we're trying to get this designation of NDAs, neighborhood development areas. And in order to get it, that was something we had to add.
Boy,
But we're giving people an out.
you're
It
putting
says
you're
prohibitively
putting a heck
expensive.
of a cost on the board for that. I understand we needed the check,
Yeah.
need the check mark, but.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I was like, well, okay, cul-de-sac would be easy, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
the other boards
cul-de-sac.
didn't want that, so, okay, well, I guess
Yeah.
we're looking at
So-
underground.
What-
You know, it's just one of those,
So for the cul-de-sac, what kind of outlet would be required for it not to be considered a cul-de-sac?
It would have to
It is.
connect to other cul-de-sacs. I mean, the whole thing's about walkability from one neighborhood to
So,
another.
yeah, but what exactly, is it walking, is it driving?
Is it
What's an
walking path or
what's an
road?
acceptable outlet
right.
that it's no longer considered a cul-de-sac? Right? So it doesn't have to be a road, does it have to be a road? Can it be a one-way street?
I
Can
don't,
it
I
be-
don't know, I think technically it would be a through street,
Mhm.
right? But would, let's say you have a cul-de-sac, and then let's say you make a bike path connection to the next street over. That might be okay, I don't know, it's kind of a gray zone, but I
Sure.
think that's probably okay.
But I can see that as being potentially an additional check mark because we are trying to encourage development, and this is something that would be prohibitively expensive, even just
Yeah.
by any means. So,
By not having cul-de-sacs.
Yeah.
That doesn't go.
Well, the cul-de-sac in the past has been a big fire issue.
Oh.
Oh.
When I did my subdivision on Route 100, the cul-de-sac was put in for, the main reason it was put in was to allow fire trucks and
oh,
ladder trucks and everybody to come up and turn around and
Yeah,
access.
it's all about
and
turning radius.
all of that.
And you said, I remember you said at that meeting that you only knew of one, and that's the one you know of then, in Ludlow.
Yeah, I know that's why ours was that way.
I think Timber Creek is like that. Timber Creek.
Yeah, Timber
Yeah,
Creek,
Timber
there you
Creek
go,
is
down
like
at the
that.
bottom, way down, yeah.
But is that a cul-de-sac or a dead end?
No, that's a cul,
Excuse me,
well,
do
it's,
you
it's a,
mean
it would,
the village at South Face, it's no longer called Timber Creek?
Across the street.
Yeah,
It's-
it's still Timber Creek.
Okay,
The single-family home sites is roads.
okay.
And it drops down into a cul-de-sac. and
That's a
that was
cul-de-sac.
my understanding, is that it had to be
Yeah.
fully built out with the cul-de-sac as part of their permit, so
Yeah.
that they could service homes as
Yeah.
they were built down
Come to
there.
think of it, isn't
Are
there
there
one up
houses
where the
on
Neils
this?
live on South Hill? That's a cul-de-sac, where Pam O'Neill lives on
I
South
said,
Hill.
are there houses
On the old
cul-de-sac?
Yes.
off
Yeah.
or something.
No, not yet.
where Matt Graves used
Yeah.
to-
Only, I think
Yeah.
only 2 or 3 have been built.
But this is only within the neighborhood development area.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
this
that's
is only
true.
within the neighborhood development
Yeah, we're
area.
talking.
And Timber
So-
Ridge is not.
These are all out of town, these are,
Farm
Yeah.
Ridge is not.
So I think if there's gray area about what kind of outlet would no longer then define it as a cul-de-sac, that's, I think, a better route for us to go as a check mark than the underground, than requiring underground utilities, because that's,
Economically.
yeah, that you're,
Well,
We're already
I don't think
behind.
that is, I remember from that meeting, I'd have to look at the minutes, that I don't think the trustees and select board, they didn't want cul-de-sac. I mean, they didn't want
Oh, we had
to
the
restrict
minutes.
cul-de-sacs.
yeah,
And they were okay with this underground thing, as I remember from the meeting.
Yep.
Well, you know, one, I mean, without those two boards here, it's hard to know what would fly, but it says prohibit cul-de-sacs or dead-end streets. But it says, if not, is the length of a cul-de-sac regulated and minimized? So that could be something that we look at. You know, maybe we say, no
oh,
new cul-de-sacs of this length,
yeah.
whatever, 1,000 feet, pick a number.
So, okay, so they don't want some long road going to nowhere, or a
I
longer
mean, what
road.
they really want, so this is in the neighborhood development area.
Yep,
What they really want is an interconnected network of streets.
yep,
Yeah,
yep,
That's what they really want, right?
Burbs.
yep.
And what we're really trying to regulate here is a new development. Or perhaps it's an existing development that's getting expanded. That
Mhm.
could be those scenarios, right? So, I mean, that would be one way to look at this, is maybe we could prohibit the length of any new cul-de-sac. That might be, you know, because undergrounding utilities is expensive.
Mhm.
This could be an ulterior to that.
My dream of getting this to a public hearing is dwindling away here. Not making major changes to it. Where is that part of the subdivision regs, Jason, the cul-de-sac part? Are we scrapping this? I feel like we should leave it here because the prohibitively expensive makes it an option anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
That's,
Like Ted says, maybe by adding prohibitively expensive, you know. It's
Yeah,
not
it
gonna
makes
happen
it a wash anyway.
In most cases.
Do we want to also add the are people okay with
Well-
leaving it there? Since it's not, you know, it doesn't sound like it's a huge requirement.
Terry, why would changing from this to doing something with the cul-de-sac, how will that slow us down?
Well, I guess it won't if we've got it down already. But do people want to jump this part? Because I don't really want to. I mean, if it's possible, I would really hope to get underground power in town in future developments.
I mean, in some cases where it's not like, impossible to do it, power company is starting to do some of this,
They-
because
They do.
trees are flopping.
Yeah, because
over on the
it
power
makes
lines
it
and
more
whatever.
reliable.
So it does do that, although it is expensive to trench that sucker, so, you know.
It is.
hmm.
Do I hear people saying we can leave it or we can't leave, or we have to junk it? This part, utilities, 1.8.
It does leave discretion to the DRB.
that's
Yeah.
where I would go.
Are you
You know.
okay, Ted? Okay,
Um,
I know you're a builder.
it's up to them, I
I totally
guess.
get your point of view as a builder.
Well, if you're trying to create a
Yeah.
subdivision, or you're trying to
An
create
affordable
opportunity here to
subdivision,
do
and you're
this,
saying put in underground lines, it's not gonna be affordable.
Yeah.
well, you can't do, if you keep
Right.
doing that, then no one's ever gonna do anything.
Right,
You're not gonna create any
Right.
neighborhoods or any
Right.
streets or any,
But this does.
I mean,
give
you
it
do whatever you want, you can put it in here, but that eliminates everything.
Yeah, but
Whether,
this does give people an out. 'cause
It does
it's
leave an
very-
out.
It's prohibitively expensive, they don't have to do it. Okay, I hear us moving on. So where's the cul-de-sac part? Do we want to add that?
So on page 18, there's a section that talks about no dead-end road without a suitable turnaround, and that's really as far as it goes. We could consider, so it's a sub, is it
Page is enough.
page 18, go to the top of the page,
Yeah.
the little D at the top of the page there,
The no dead end thing.
yeah, right there.
We're talking about putting length of road there?
So we could say, you know, when no dead-end road more than 1,000 feet or whatever is required. Or, you know, you can't build a road, dead-end road more than 1,000 feet long, or something to that effect.
Wait, can I ask, I'm reading this because this is the first time I've seen it. And what I'm reading is no dead-end road shall be permitted without a suitable turnaround as its terminus.
Right.
I'm looking at it as the turnaround may consist of a cul-de-sac
That's
or
right.
a T.
Or a T.
That's
right.
how I'm reading it. So where does it say you can't have a cul-de-sac?
It doesn't. It doesn't. So what I'm
This
saying
is-
is the checklist item would like to prohibit cul-de-sacs, dead-end roads, period.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why.
Yep.
Clearly, we're not doing that yet. If you don't prohibit them, maybe you reduce the length of them, and that might be enough to get you that check.
Oh,
Do we still need an additional check even with keeping the underground?
Maybe not. And
Okay.
clearly, the
Yeah,
boards weren't too into this, so we
Yeah.
could just leave it alone.
so if we keep the underground language as is, then there's no need to kind of add restrictions on the cul-de-sac.
yeah,
Probably
and plus
true.
this gives
Okay.
people an out. May consist of a cul-de-sac or a T or other configuration.
Mhm.
And you don't have to do a cul-de-sac.
And then
you're
also,
gonna have to do a cul-de-sac because the fire people are gonna want the cul-de-sac,
Right, which is
so.
why we don't want to
But you
change.
let them make
Yeah.
that decision.
Right, which is
Yeah,
why we
that's
don't want
right.
to change it.
which is how it
So we
already
don't
is.
change it,
And
we
they
do
didn't
what
wanna
we're
change
doing,
it.
move
Yeah.
forward,
Yep.
and let that all
Also
happen.
for
So, but you think we have a-
snowplows, too. They
later.
can all-
You think we have enough checks, leaving D alone,
I think so.
and then leaving the underground utilities as written?
Think so?
Yeah.
You never know until you
Yeah,
apply.
until you
But I think so.
Okay,
I think so. Yep.
Okay.
I think we should keep
I
it.
I
go
did
with
hear a
that.
little scuttlebutt from the DRB, but nobody's here from the DRB, so I guess it'll be a future discussion about how people that are doing subdivisions, what's happening is after the subdivision is done and then each individual property is being developed, the subdivision as a whole, that whole piece of land is not being looked at as far as how all those different little things are gonna affect the travel or the ability to have fire safety. And so I heard that was a concern of the DRB, but I did ask George to come if he wanted to bring that up, and he's not here, so it was just something Phil said they had talked about. So that's why I had that as a possibility there. The other thing about subdivisions that I think is happening is that people can subdivide instead of doing like planned unit development, and then they don't have to comply with affordable housing requirements. You can't get Phil to agree with me on this, but Julie agrees with me on this, that people subdivide and then they don't have to, do the affordable housing requirement, because each piece is looked at separately after that. Do you think that's happening, Jason, or is this a figment of my imagination?
I don't know if that's happening or not.
Or does it have
Would a
potential
developer
to
try
happen?
that? Sure.
I know.
If you
Would they get
can,
away with it? I don't know. I mean, I think you still have the zoning rules.
You still, so
You
yeah,
would presumably look at them both and make sure that if it's a large enough subdivision, say 10 units or more, you'd think that housing provision would apply.
Okay, even if it's a
So,
subdivision.
I don't think they should get away with it.
Okay, I'm just wondering if that's a concern or not. We don't have to talk about it tonight, but I just want to throw that monkey wrench in there. It's something I think could potentially keep us from getting that affordable housing we all need here in this town, among other things. Yeah, Jared.
I think that there's intent to build in the sketch plan portion, then you would know at that stage of the application if, whether or not they were going to have to meet the demands for the affordable housing. The Planning and Zoning Office feels that more information should be given at the sketch plan phase that
That's
shows
what I'm getting at, it's a planning and
permits
zoning
for
office.
access, for
Yeah.
wastewater, for, you know, other things as well. It'll make it easier in the end to determine if people, you know, with a PUD is gonna have to comply with the affordable housing portion.
So, do you see that language being needed in the subdivision language, that, now that we're looking at it?
I believe so, yes. It would be very nice to put that in there.
Where should it go? And
Up towards the
Board of
sketch plan.
Duties.
As soon as you present your idea to the DRB, those additional features should be known to the DRB.
Can you raise something up about that, Jared, and at the public hearing, perhaps bring that up? It might be a change we can make at that public hearing. Okay, cool.
All right, I think Mr. Alden has a question or comment.
Mr. Alden?
Two things. To your first point, if a builder or developer can find a way to avoid affordable housing, they will do that. You know, where I work, you know, the cutoff is 10 units. If you're building 10 units, it has to be affordable. So everyone builds 9 units. Everyone.
Yeah.
You know, we have 1 million 9-unit buildings in there. But that said, with a subdivision, there are times when a subdivision can be spread out many years. You know, if I'm doing a 6-lot subdivision, I may only build one house now, another house 5 years from now, another house 5 years from now. So I don't necessarily know what my plan is gonna be, you know, unless, you know, to develop like South Face or something, that's sort of know the plan. Even that changed. But something that I might do, you know, maybe I'll subdivide it in 4 or 5 lots. Like, all right, I'll put up a house now because that's what I can afford to do, sell and make a little money, and a couple of years and do another one. So you may not always know what the full plan is gonna be on a subdivision, so that's gonna take some thinking to talk through, you know, how best to address that.
Okay.
because
Can
it's-
I entertain a motion to make these changes that we've talked about with Jason to the subdivision regulations? And so we can move forward with our public hearing, and then the trustees have a public hearing, and then we can apply to BDAs, which has a deadline of 2027, right? That you can even apply for them and get them?
Sooner,
Sooner.
October of this year is our deadline to apply.
To apply, okay,
How does this sound?
okay.
Motion to approve subdivision changes regarding neighborhood development areas. Is that what we're calling neighborhood development areas?
So, could you repeat that? I
Sure.
lost
You don't have to
something.
even mention neighborhood development areas,
I don't.
just to approve the
All right.
subdivision changes that we've gone over tonight.
Okay.
As
Motion
presented.
to approve the subdivision changes as
As
Discussed
presented and
tonight.
discussed
presented
tonight.
and discussed tonight. Okay.
I'll second that. Is there any discussion on subdivision changes? All those in, oh, sorry.
No, I don't.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes appear to have it.
The only thing I'd say is if the DRB or anybody else has other changes, these things should get updated more frequently than they have been.
Yeah,
So
I don't think,
would
I've been on
encourage
this
that.
board a long time, and we've never looked at this.
It's been a long time.
Never
Yeah.
looked at this.
Hmm.
And times have changed, that's for sure. Okay, moving on, geez, where's that agenda? And so I was wondering if we needed, no, that's in the future, never mind. Subdivision changes from the DRB, we can table that, we talked about that. Public hearings scheduled for village and town zoning changes, including our changes for NDAs, that's the subdivision changes from tonight. The sections we've completed, I want to go over those with you guys, so just so you're familiar with them. The section 220, that was the one Ryan suggested about zoning permits, that interior alterations.
Oh, yeah.
that we were gonna add that to town zoning, but we added to village zoning. So that's something I wanted to send forward to this public hearing. Obviously, the changes for the NDAs, the completed section 221, which was the change we made in applications that we had made in the village, and now we made it in the town. These are the ones we've done so far. Section 224, the expiration of permit, we had updated that in the village and to comply with the Home Act, and now we updated it in the town as well. Section 227, certificates of occupancy, same thing, we had updated because of state bylaw changes, and we updated that in our town zoning. And the last thing was the flood regs that we updated, but I know we were talking about just doing a cut and paste with the one that we updated in the village into the town, but I really took a look at the flood regs for the town. They seem a lot more extensive than the ones that were in the village. Do you know if they are, Jason? They looked a lot more, I wonder if we should wait on that.
Can't hurt to wait, I don't know,
We
is that
thought
something you
about,
looked into?
yeah.
A little bit. There's a lot of differences. There's some missing things that probably should be addressed, so if we take our time and do it right.
Right, but we did do it for the village, and we
Yeah.
spent a lot of time extensively talking about that, so that's ready to go for the village. So, I would entertain a motion to schedule a public hearing for February that includes those things, the subdivision changes, the town zoning, sections 220, 221, 224, and 227,
And the village.
and the village flood regs to a public hearing. What do people think? And obviously, at the public hearing, we can narrow down the subdivision stuff and add what the planning office is needing. And decide whether or not to make that change or not at that public hearing. People okay with that?
When would we
We
do
need a
it? I
motion.
can't do the first week in February, that's all.
Oh, no, we do it at our regular
Our
meeting in
regular meeting.
February, yeah. I was gonna call it like at 5:30, and then as soon as that public hearing is ended, start our regular meeting.
So you want a motion?
Yeah, you got all that stuff?
Well, I think so, because it's right here.
Yeah.
Motion to schedule a public hearing for village and town zoning changes. I can read it right up here. Including changes from NDAs.
Well, we get to say for subdivision regulations.
For subdivision regulations, as well as completed sections of 220, 221, 224, 227.
Of
and
town zoning.
Of town zoning, and village flood regulations.
I got it.
You got it. Any seconds?
For
Second.
February.
Yeah,
I'll
At
second that.
5:30 before our regular meeting.
thank you.
February
Details.
Is that a February break?
Yeah, it is.
Should be on the 18th, if it's your normal meeting.
That's why I asked.
No, it's the 21st. Oh, no, that's January 1, sorry. Yeah, it's the 18th. That's President's Day.
That's President's.
Do we want to,
That's not President's Day, it's President's.
President's Week, do we want to?
President's Day is Monday.
We want to move it up to the 25th? No, you want it on President's Week? Does anybody have a problem with that?
I
No.
did.
So it's for the 25th, for the 18th of February? Did we get a second?
I'll second.
Ryan will second. Okay, any discussion? That was a lot, Leisha.
I got it.
I know you got it. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any abstention, any noes? The ayes appear to have it.
That means I have more time to do the minutes.
Yeah, there you go. Short-term rentals. While we were at that joint meeting, we brought up short-term rentals in light of the devastating fire up at the condo. Completely eliminated one condo and part of another. And they were like, yes, bring it to us. I know I was telling them, we have well-researched ideas about that. I'm gonna share my screen that we had. I just thought we could take a look at what we decided quite a while ago and see if we want to change anything. And bring it back to the boards. So this is what we had made a decision about last time, and this is quite a while ago. So we said that a permit, a registration would be required for short and long, I'm not sharing it,
Not on
oh,
the
sorry.
screen.
Okay, wait, let me get this right. Share screen, there it is. Okay. I don't know if I can make it bigger.
Can you do Control plus plus? Does that work on your computer?
Once you're sharing, you can change it, yeah, so Control plus plus,
That's, works online.
nope.
If she has a Mac, it wouldn't be control, it would be command, maybe.
I'm gonna
What are you trying to do?
try and make it bigger.
The screen bigger.
Put your fingers in your mouse and do it.
I'll just try 16, see what that happens. Is that better?
Yeah.
I got it, I see where we're at now in the,
Yeah.
Yeah, it is included in your packet.
That's why I log on, so I can just look at it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Never see that.
these are, things we decided last time, but I thought we could just take a look at it and maybe make changes if we wanted to. So we said initially the permanent registration would be required for short and long-term rentals, but the long-term rentals would have no fees. And we'll have fire, but just have fire and safety regulations, which they already have now. So I'm not sure if we need to say that about long-term rentals. And I'm cautioned about what Martha said about the state regs saying you can't make restrictions on long-term rentals because we have none in the state. Martha from the Regional Planning Commission shared that with us at one of our meetings. What do you guys think? Should we include long-term rentals in our? Should we even be working on this? What do you guys think?
I think one of the things we can do too is look at the minutes and see what the different boards said about their views on long-term rentals, because this was like a real rough draft
Yeah,
when we did
yeah.
it. It wasn't very refined.
No,
I
but
think we really need to sit down and almost just have a meeting on this part.
yeah, you think we should just table this for tonight and,
Yeah.
because I started to.
Because I want to kind of read through all the minutes that Leisha did from the joint meeting, because
The
there were
joint
a
meeting, the
lot
last
of-
thing Brett Sanderson said was, I want the planning commission to go back to the table and work on this. That was the last thing that he said at that meeting.
You know, things like rentals over eight occupants, we need to look at that.
I did start working on the chart and updating, like, the chart originally included all the neighborhood towns that had them so far, and now there's like, almost all of them do. And I started adding more towns and what they had decided, and I can finish that work if you want and bring it to, the next meeting. Do you want me to do that? Do you want me to do that? Yeah, a lot of them hadn't changed much. Plymouth had gone up a lot, but I went on their town websites and a lot of them looked exactly the same as when we looked at it the first time. But there were a lot more that have it now, like Chester and Londonderry.
Well, things like talking about occupancy of 9 or more people, occupancy of, there's a lot of factors that were brought up that I think we need to take a look at.
Well, we're doing this for fire and safety, fire and health
Yeah.
safety, right?
Yes.
That's the motivation.
But also
so-
the motivation too was, we're in debt. Our town is in debt.
Yeah,
because of
well,
the flood. And
revenue,
it's revenue.
well, revenue will come too.
They weren't
Yeah.
opposed to revenue.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
But as far as restrictions, I don't think by making long-term rentals register, there's no restriction there, other than we have to acknowledge that you do have tenants in that building.
Right.
So now it can be
So I
it
hear
can
you
be
saying that's
checked for
something you
fire and
want to
safety.
keep, and I don't think that's a problem, keeping that.
Yeah, I would just say all rentals, all rentals. So, it's even to the title, it's the rental registry. It's
Yeah,
not,
but
it's
we're
not
not,
an STR
I don't want
registry.
long-term rentals to be charged fees.
No,
because,
we said,
yeah,
we
because
already,
don't have-
we
don't
already
have
said
any,
that. Yeah,
hardly any.
which is fine, and that would be considered a restriction, so we're not putting any restrictions on them, but they do need to be registered, we need to know. We need to
Don't they
know.
already have to know? My sister's been a
What-
landlord before,
so
and she had to have sprinklers
what-
and all kinds of stuff.
So what's the harm of knowing twice, right? Because it's all for fire and health safety,
Well, it'd be
right?
nice to know if there are any in Ludlow too. How many
There are.
there are still. I mean, I know there are some, but obviously Jared has one, right? Jared?
I'm sorry, I was just thinking of my own, well, not my own situation, but yeah, I do have a landlord, and he's got to comply with all the fire and safety. They
Mhm.
came in one day, and I found new combo smoke CO detectors in my apartment. you know.
Great.
Yeah.
So they are
Yep.
aware, I mean, the state even, through the fire, and what I was just contemplating for a second was part of the requirements for the permit should be that a fire inspection be completed and presented on the application.
I definitely think we should have that.
I would love to see VRBO do that, Airbnb, just if you were gonna post your place on one of those sites, that the certificate be posted with it. Can't do that unless we bring it to a state level or something, but at least for our applications here, we'd like to know that they've been reviewed by the fire marshal.
And the fire marshal, the new fire chief was at one of our meetings and said he had no problem with, like, sending his officers or even himself to get trained in doing that too. So you didn't have to wait for the state fire marshal.
Yep.
Yeah,
And-
that would be great. I think that's coming down the road, but it could take a couple of months, probably not soon enough for this season, but definitely we get it in place for next season. Or summer even.
So, do you want me to go, Judy, go ahead.
I don't have a problem with the concept, but I do wonder about the capacity when we're saying there's 800 to 1,000 of that many inspections. And I think that's something we need to kind of grapple with and maybe, talk to some people that know or do
So-
some property management. Because it might be kind of a tiered system, like if you're already doing, sometimes they'll gradually implement something over a period of years, because to think that we're gonna get 800 to 1,200 rental units inspected by next winter is not gonna happen.
And the other towns
But that's, I'm
do it
just
every 5
thinking of
years,
the.
like you're on a rotation of
Right,
when you're
right, but you have to
inspected.
put the rotation in place,
Right.
just like anything.
Right.
Well,
And that's gonna,
and-
that's why I said maybe we need like a whole meeting just on this one thing, because it's a lot.
Yeah,
that-
I'm okay with that.
That rotation would be by priority, and our fire chief would probably look at lower occupancy that the state fire marshal's not gonna touch. The state fire marshal would probably be the 8 occupants or greater. They're gonna be all over those, but we still have a list. I look at 800 to 1,000 rentals, and I see, we could hire an assistant fire chief. That's what I see.
I mean,
As far,
they
so
may have to pay a fee for those inspections.
the
Yeah,
registry,
to
there will be a
fund it.
fee.
Do that.
Yeah.
They do now.
And also, the fire chief that came to our meeting said that there's ones that are advertised in Ludlow for over 20 occupants. It was
Yeah.
just shocking how many he said there were.
Yeah.
That sleep over 20.
Like ants.
Yeah,
It's like
there
the
are-
whole third floor.
There are
is a bunk
houses,
room, is a
there are
bunk
houses
room.
being built with bunk rooms that hold 12, 14 people. So,
That was
and
really
they're being
shocking.
built into the structure. They're not like bunk beds you put together, they're built into the building,
Right, they're like.
right? They're literally, they're part of the
Yes, I've seen them
room,
before.
So, I think, yes, obviously, we threw this away, we all said no. Now we're seeing some real life things. You saw that horrible story with the CO deaths on Christmas Day in New Hampshire, all because
I don't know about that.
yeah, a family from Massachusetts was renting in New Hampshire, and they all died from carbon monoxide poisoning.
They weren't renters, they owned the house.
Is that true?
Yes,
That wasn't a news story.
yes, it was.
Okay, either way, I'm pretty sure on that,
Well,
but
anyway, those
but
people-
either way, but
those people on our
still,
chemo, if that had been in the middle of the night,
But
that would have been a different story.
either way, still, these things happen, and we're creating obviously there's an environment for these things to happen readily here, so, yep, I think we should talk about this and.
So do we want
just
to
do
dedicate our
something.
next meeting after the public hearing at 5:30 to talk about this? And I'll do the
Sure.
research of, get all the updated information from neighboring towns and new towns that have gotten a registry that I didn't have in the first chart. Okay, we'll do that then. Okay, municipal planning grant we couldn't meet in December because we didn't have a quorum. Between November and now, Rose sent me a memo about a municipal planning grant I had never written one before, so Jason met with me and we started some preliminary stuff, and Jason and Martha did tons of work after that and came up with a municipal planning grant, which I think I sent to you guys, right? Did I send it to you? If not, I will. And I'm on the February select board meeting to go over it with them, because there is a match, a town match. It's not very big. And Cherry's also involved, my niece, as the grant person in Ludlow now. And I'll send it to you, remember to send it to you. It's basically, the whole grant is about having regional help us with updating our town zoning, which we've already started, but it is quite lengthy. And we got a long way to go with it. And flood regs and affordable housing and all that stuff is part of it, as well as the entire town plan, redoing the entire thing. And so what I would like, if everybody's on board with applying for this municipal planning grant, is I need a motion for the chair to be able to sign the resolution form. And hopefully when I meet with the select board in February, they will also sign the resolution form and we'll be able to apply. The application date is March 31st, is it?
End of the month, March
End of the
31st.
month, March
Yeah.
31st, so kind of like to get that done in February.
So the resolution form is for a municipal planning grant.
Yeah. Basically says everybody's on board with it and we'll make the match for the money. How much money was it? $40,000?
It's a maximum of 30,000 for a single town, and it wasn't that much. I can't remember the numbers now. I think the match was in the realm of $2,000. Does that sound about right?
Yeah. Cherry, I said to Cherry, would there be a problem with the match? And she said, absolutely not. That was her opinion about it, so.
Okay. I'll make a motion for our chair to sign a resolution form for a municipal planning grant. Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any noes? You guys seem to have it. Next month's agenda planning. A public hearing at 5:30. STRs. And hopefully NDA stuff will be done by that February date, because I will have gone to the select board and anybody else wants to go with me. What do you think else we can tackle? Oh, we're just gonna do that, right? So all the rest of the stuff.
That will take a whole meeting.
Yeah, so all the rest of the stuff can go to March or whatever. Okay, other business. Are there any board member comments? Are there any citizen comments? We're all staring at you, Mr. Halden.
No, your agenda was long enough tonight. Save it for the next meeting. Thank you.
I have one.
Oh, yes,
One more of a
Suzanne.
question.
Yep.
So when you refer to long-term rentals, what's that criteria?
That criteria is later on in here. 1 day, permits will be required for rentals 1 day a year or greater. So that's how we're defining short-term rentals. I don't know, we haven't defined long-term
Yeah,
rentals. I
I
know
only-
Plymouth defines it as 30 days.
Yeah, so I only ask because if you're going to be looking at other towns and how they define, I think most of the ones that I've seen primarily deal with STRs. They don't deal so much with the long-term.
Yeah, I don't really want to deal with the long-term, but I hear Ryan's point on that.
Yeah, so, and like, honestly, just went into a house recently where this place is rented, not by us, but they're interested in selling. And, there's 2 bedrooms that they rent out that are not, So when, so as far as like the long-term or the short-term, the property can be a short-term now and be a long-term next year. I've had long-term in my apartment. This year I had to go short-term because I didn't rent it long-term. And so long-term for me is, also includes a seasonal rental, which is from the basically the ski season.
Yeah.
So people are there, and sometimes they're there like a short term, like they come and go over the weekend, but sometimes they're employees of the mountain and they're here for the whole time and every day. So defining long-term, I just thought might be helpful.
I think you're right, I think we need to define
So-
long-term.
My solution to that is if you rent your property for more than one day, you have to register all rentals and not say short-term, long-term. Home, you rent your property.
Well, that will make it clearer,
register.
because from, like I say, from season to season, year
Yep.
to year,
Time doesn't matter. If you
Can
rent your,
change.
my opinion, if you rent your house for one day, you have to follow in the registry.
Eric?
So I do have a comment now. To the point here, I think that the state definition is 30 days in between
yeah.
short and long.
Something we can.
Again,
Yeah.
to avoid short or long-term definitions at all, you
No, I
rent your
agree.
property.
I'm kind of concerned with the discussion that, we've heard several times that, I don't want to deal with long-term rentals. We don't want to include them because of whatever.
I don't know, some perception.
That really seems short-sighted to me, because I think most folks will agree, and I don't know if the data's out there, but the long-term rentals are really the rentals that are more dangerous, generally, day to day, because there's no one checking them, because the owners may not be educated on what they need to do. I mean, Jared just said he came in and found new smoke detectors. What was there before? Who knows?
How
But
long were they there?
Nothing. Yeah.
nothing,
Yeah.
right? So.
But the sprinkler system was in place, so.
Yeah.
So really, when you're discussing, and it was mentioned here, tonight, I have no issues with fees. If I'm renting a unit, I'm in a business. If I'm in a business, I expect that I'm going to have to pay some fees somewhere. Don't have an issue with that. But what sounds, the narrative sounds really punitive when you say, well, they're making a lot of money, so we should charge them. You don't do that with other businesses. If you have a hatchery that sells cheap food, their permit costs the same as, one that's selling
Yep.
$80 steaks. You don't penalize a business because their price point is higher or that they're making more money. And again, the fees are fine, I got no issue with that. But I have an issue with defining or penalizing folks that are in a certain type of rental market, and then saying, well, I don't want to deal with the long-term rentals, because what the narrative has always been, we're doing this for safety.
Yep.
So long-term rentals shouldn't be safe.
Yeah.
It really should be.
Jason, could you speak to Martha's, what you said about that at one of our meetings, about how the state says long-term rentals cannot be restricted in any way?
There's no restriction.
I don't know what that, I don't know what,
I guess I gotta email her and ask her.
So-
about
I'll
if
have to
you-
follow up, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are we saying we think that the state of Vermont is saying that long-term rentals shouldn't be made safe? That's making
No,
them
I think-
safe is a restriction?
I'm under the assumption that they're already regulated by the state
It-
for
I mean,
fire.
everything is,
What?
everything is,
Are short-term rentals already regulated by
Sure.
the state?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you say regulated, are inspectors randomly coming in and checking? No, not necessarily. You have to call them for an inspection. But it's no different, the state doesn't look at it any differently.
But I
In
think the
terms-
issue here is the short-term rentals, people are packing them in and getting a lot of money every night for that, and it's not safe.
So why does that
Right,
matter, how
but-
much money they make?
But more
But
fires
long-term
happen,
rentals could be,
more fires in general, maybe the chief can, you'll see more fires in regular homes as you do in short-term rentals. I agree they're packing them in,
yeah.
and that's not a safe situation. But long-term rentals are a worse situation. They really are, and they should be put on the same level as any
As,
rental.
you have long-term rentals, right, in the
Yeah.
GE building?
Yeah,
Do you have fire and safety regulations
of
you have to
course,
comply
I do it,
with?
yeah, I have permits, I had to do a change of occupancy permit. Fire marshal comes in, checks. We have monitored systems there, we have sprinkler systems, yeah.
Do you also have short-term rentals over there?
Not me personally, but there are some.
And do they have the same sort of fire and safety requirements over there?
Yes.
The exact same.
Yes.
Okay, well, it's
Yeah.
up for, we're gonna talk
Yeah.
about it the whole next meeting, so
Yeah.
we'll have lots of
Yeah.
discussion about that, obviously.
think we
And-
need to get copies of all those regulations.
Yeah, that's a good
Make
idea.
informed decisions.
Yeah, state regs.
It's just the narrative's always been about safety.
Suzanne,
Which seems like a
do you
cover-up.
have available in your office?
Is it about
Like,
safety or is it
what?
not?
I thought so.
Does
I
anybody
say
else
it's
have
about
any
safety.
comments? Alice, how about you, former
I'm
planning
concerned about the
commission?
one day.
Yeah.
I'm very concerned about that. When somebody has, somebody come for their relative's wedding, and they say, well, I want to help you out with the cost of cleaning it, is that a rental for one day? You know, where is
No.
that? One day seems absurd.
What'd they say, the average one day was like $752 or something? The average price of a one day?
Yeah, but you're taking a very high when you do that. Like, you're
That's Guy
taking.
Granicus said that.
So the one
Yeah,
day.
no, but you're taking something on the mountain
Yeah.
that might be
Yeah.
8,000 square foot for $6,000 a night, that the owner's gonna rent, you know, for very, very minimal amount of time, and you're averaging that in with something that's like, you know, the mill or
So-
the pond condos, you know, so it's, yes, maybe the average is that much, but there's a lot of taxes and fees and all of that that
So-
get piled on, so, you know, I mean, I'm not saying people aren't making money, but the average, like the medium average, if you take that,
Is
It's-
irrelevant to this conversation.
Yeah.
I'll finish, sorry to finish your thought, but
Yeah.
the one day stems from the Vermont Fire Code designates a commercial building if it's occupied by the public for one day or more a year. So that's
a
considered
state-
now a
it's a
public, it's a
state
state fire code. And I really hope, and I'll keep, I'm sorry if I'm being rude doing it, but the
You're not
amount,
being
the
rude.
amount of money, the average cost per night an owner makes has no business in this conversation about this rental registry. It has none at all.
yeah.
This is about fire and health safety, this is about keeping people safe. This is from avoiding buildings from burning down in our town, keeping our firemen and firewomen safe. We ask all of our neighboring towns to help us put out our fires, and we are knowingly marching them into danger. That gets me upset, and it should get all of us upset, and that's why we're doing this. We're not doing this because there's certain people making money, that's all bogus. This is about not marching our volunteer firemen and women into knowingly dangerous situations. And the fact that at that fire up on Trailside, no one was hurt or died is a miracle in itself. And that's why we're back to the table. So I ask the board that this conversation stick to that, in who makes money, it has no business in this conversation. That's my opinion.
But tonight, indeed, there was a lot of discussion about how much money is being made, and the town needs money. That's what I certainly heard
that's-
people
Sure, oh,
say
you-
here
I want to
tonight.
talk about that too.
Sure, you want to talk
So-
about a fee schedule for the registry all day, but as far as what's the average rental? What does the average owner make on a rental in Ludlow? But what does that matter? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It matters to me, because they're conducting a business, and they don't have the same fees as everybody else that's conducting a business in town.
We're talking about putting fees on them right now. That's
Yeah.
literally what we're talking about.
Yeah, I know, I disagree with you on
And if
that
you do a
point.
fee schedule, you can do a graduated one, you know, somebody rents, you know, 2 weeks or less or something.
Yeah, I don't think
But
we
some
should
of the
even-
fees are the same.
We
because
should definitely
you-
not even
you
look at
gotta
those
get an
seasonal
inspection, you
rentals,
gotta
because
get
we
an
need seasonal
inspection.
rentals, so I don't want to restrict those in any way either.
I kind of, if I can, I think what we get into trouble in the conversation that we had before, we get into trouble when we start putting dividers on rentals. I agree with Ryan, a rental is a rental, regardless of how much money they're making. Like I said before, something can be a year-round rental this year, and that owner has the right to change their use next year and be seasonal or short-term. I mean, you say we need seasonal rentals, well, this year, we had a lot of seasonal rentals that didn't rent this year. A lot, more than I've seen in years. We had an abundance of seasonal rentals that are still sitting empty. So there are people that don't want to go short-term, they're not here, and they didn't rent. You know, it's a market, right? So prices got pushed up after COVID, everybody responded to that, and now the demand has started to drop a little bit. So people are, you know, that market's getting corrected. So it's just always a moving target on the rental. And the short-term rental, I mean, the state defines the long-term as anything over 30 days. And that's what puts, or triggers the rooms and meals tax, which is now 10% for short-term rentals. So there is a big chunk of money that's going to the state. If Ludlow puts in a 1% tax, you know, there's an opportunity for Ludlow to make money on the short-term rentals and leave the long-term rentals alone. So, you know, right there built in, you could have revenue coming from those directly without singling out one type of rental over the other.
Are there any more citizen comments? Mr. Alden, you got something else?
I think the short-term rental tax is actually 12% now.
It is, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
12. It went from 9 to 12.
Which one is, ours?
Short-term rental, they pay the 9%
Right.
rooms tax plus an extra 3%
Right.
tax.
Short-term
because
tax
they're
to
short-term
the
rental.
state, right.
But the piece about making money is I think we think because someone has a long-term rental that they're not making any money. You know, someone that has owned their home for a long time could potentially, if they have a couple of units, be making $50,000 a year on those rentals. Where, you know, a short-term rental could be making $20,000 that season. So how much people are making, you know, to Ryan's point, you know, unless the narrative is really that you try to be punitive to teach these people a lesson, but you're saying that it's for safety, so how much a business makes really shouldn't come into play.
Okay, well, thank you for your opinion. Do we have any other citizen opinions? Boy, I promised everybody by 7:30 and it's even earlier.
Thank you for letting me.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
What's the date of the short-term rental?
I move to adjourn.
So.
February
the
18th.
February 18th?
Yep, and we'll start talking about it, sorry. We have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor?
Who
Any
seconded it?
discussion? Judy, any discussion on adjournment?
Oh, let's stay another 5 minutes. Just kidding.
Good conversation.
We don't have to do ayes on that, yeah. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And any noes? We're out of here.
Okay, so your next meeting
Yeah, a little bit.
is
February
February
18th,
Yeah, a little
and
bit.
we're gonna
So-
start at 5:30, and when the